There are certain seasons in life that don't just challenge you, they completely unmake you, where the things you believed in collapse, where the roles you played fall away, where even your sense of self begins to disappear. I didn't know I was entering such a season. All I knew was I felt hollow, lost, and exhausted by life. This is the story of how I broke down and slowly began to rebuild, not into a better version of myself, but into someone more real. This is my personal journey through the dark night of the soul. It didn't start with a tragedy. There was no death, no breakup, no disaster, just a quiet unraveling. At first, I noticed I was tired. Not physically, but spiritually tired. My usual routines began to feel mechanical. My passions felt forced. My conversations turned shallow. And even in a room full of people, I felt deeply, utterly alone. I tried to shake it off. More coffee, more to-do lists, more yoga, more journaling, more positive thinking, but nothing touched it. Nothing worked. The stillness I used to love became unbearable. The beliefs I used to lean on felt like paper walls. Something was happening to me, but I didn't know what. I started telling people, I feel disconnected, like I'm floating. Some would say, maybe you just need a vacation. Others would say, it's probably depression. You should talk to someone. And I did. I talked to therapists. I read books on trauma, shadow work, emotional resilience. I meditated, prayed, fasted, cried, and still, the ache remained. Not a sharp pain, but a dull, endless hum like something sacred was dying, and I couldn't stop it. It was terrifying, and worse. I felt completely alone in it. One morning, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back at me. Not physically, but energetically. It was like everything I had built, my personality, my identity, my values, was starting to dissolve. I wasn't interested in the things I used to love. I wasn't motivated by the goals I once chased. I didn't believe in the spiritual language I once spoke fluently. Even my prayers felt hollow. It was as if the universe had gone silent and I had become invisible. That's when I found the phrase, dark night of the soul, and suddenly, everything made sense. I remember typing those words into Google like someone entering a confession booth, and the results shocked me. Mystics, saints, seekers, writers across time and cultures had described the same thing, a spiritual crisis where the self is stripped of illusion, a stage where all known meaning dissolves, a painful sacred passage between ego death and soul rebirth. It wasn't depression, it wasn't burnout, it wasn't failure, it was initiation. And suddenly, I didn't feel so crazy anymore, just lost, but on a path others had walked before me. From that moment, my relationship with the darkness changed. Instead of fighting it, I began to witness it. I sat in the sadness. I allowed the confusion. I let myself grieve not a person, but an old version of myself. I stopped trying to fix myself and started learning how to simply be with myself. Some nights were unbearable. I cried without knowing why. Other nights, I just stared at the ceiling, numb, but slowly. The panic softened. The need to understand everything loosened, and something quieter began to take its place. Stillness, emptiness, presence. Not the presence of answers, but the presence of me. That was the beginning of my descent, but also, strangely, the beginning of a deeper kind of healing. In part 2, I'll share what happened when my life began to fall apart externally and how I discovered the hidden intelligence behind the collapse. Because the dark night of the soul doesn't just strip your mind, it reshapes your entire reality. As the darkness deepened inside me, my outer world began to crumble too. At first, it was subtle. Small things falling apart, friendships growing distant, plans not working. A strange sense of everything is slipping. Then it got louder. I lost my job. I lost a few people I thought would never leave. The future I had carefully planned just dissolved. At one point, I remember sitting in my apartment, surrounded by boxes and unpaid bills, and thinking, am I being punished? But a deeper voice whispered back, no, you're being unraveled. There's a moment in the dark night when you realize you're not just losing things, you're losing yourself, your sense of purpose, your belief systems, even your spiritual identity. I used to be someone who believed in miracles, in synchronicity, in everything happens for a reason. But suddenly, I wasn't sure about anything. I stopped praying. I stopped meditating. Not out of rebellion, but because nothing meant anything anymore. I felt like a hollow body just going through motions, like the soul had stepped out and left a shell behind. And for a while, I hated that. One of the hardest things about the dark night is that it's invisible to others. People can see when you break a bone, or lose a job, or go through a divorce. But there's no obvious event, no clear explanation. So you learn to fake it, smile, nod, say you're just tired. Meanwhile, deep down, you feel like your soul is being torn open, and no one even notices. It's the kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone, but from feeling unreachable. I tried to climb out. I bought books, listened to spiritual teachers, tried affirmations, cold showers, detox smoothies, anything that promised to fix me, but nothing stuck, nothing held, because I didn't need another tool or technique. I needed to surrender, and that terrified me. I was someone who always had control, always had a plan. Surrender felt like death, and in a way, it was the part of me that always had the answers. The fixer, the achiever, the seeker, began to die. Not physically, but psychologically. And the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was horrifying. Imagine being dropped into an ocean with no land in sight, no sense of direction, no one to call. That's what ego death feels like. You're still breathing, but every structure that held your sense of I is dissolving. I'm not who I thought I was, but I don't know who I am without it. That question haunted me for weeks. And then one night, something shifted. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't journaling. I was just sitting, and I felt it. Not joy, not peace, but a kind of stillness, a soft presence, like something ancient was sitting beside me in the dark, not saying a word, but holding me with infinite gentleness. For the first time, I didn't want to escape the pain. I wanted to listen to it, and when I did, I heard something unexpected. You're not broken. You're just becoming who you were always meant to be. The dark night didn't end that night, but it changed. I was no longer running from the void. I was learning to walk with it, to breathe inside the emptiness, to trust what I couldn't yet see. In part 3, I'll share the moment I began to feel light again and how the smallest flicker of hope became the spark that started to guide me home. It didn't happen in a burst of light. There were no angel choirs, no epiphany, just a small, almost imperceptible shift. One morning, I opened my eyes, and for the first time in months, I noticed the sunlight on the wall, and it was beautiful. Not because anything had changed. I still had no plan, no clarity, no purpose. But I wasn't afraid of the emptiness anymore. There was something peaceful about it, like sitting beside a fire that no longer burned me. That moment didn't fix me, but it reminded me I was still here, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. From there, the healing didn't rush in. It tiptoed. Some mornings, I'd cry again. Other days, I'd feel strange bursts of gratitude for nothing in particular. I started noticing beauty again. The sound of birds at dawn, the warmth of tea in my hands, the way rain made the streets shimmer. I wasn't happy, but I was present, and that was a miracle. I stopped needing answers. I stopped chasing meaning. I began to trust the mystery, not blindly, but intimately. I didn't know where life was taking me, but for the first time, I didn't feel the need to steer. I started practicing small rituals, not because I had to, but because they felt sacred. Lighting a candle in the morning, writing one honest sentence at night, sitting in silence without demanding a message. I wasn't healed. I wasn't enlightened, but I was becoming And that was enough. Looking back, I realized the dark night didn't take anything real from me. It took the illusions, the roles I played to be loved, the beliefs I clung to for safety, the ambitions I wore like armor. It didn't destroy me. It revealed me. It was never about punishment. It was always about purification. What I thought was death was actually a deeper kind of birth. The light I found wasn't blinding. It didn't promise answers, or certainty, or control. It was a quiet light, one that asked nothing of me. It just held me, like a friend who doesn't need you to talk, or a forest that welcomes you just as you are. I began to realize maybe awakening isn't a rising, maybe it's a softening, a melting into what was always true beneath the noise. If you're in the middle of your own dark night, I want to tell you something that no one told me. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not alone. This isn't the end of you. This is the undoing of everything that wasn't you. Let it fall apart. Let it ache. Let it strip you bare. And trust not in what comes next, but in who you are becoming. There's no linear path through the dark night. No 5-step guide to awakening. It's messy. It's raw. It's deeply human. But it's also sacred. Because in that darkness, you will meet a version of yourself that isn't performative, or conditioned, or afraid. You will meet the part of you that is eternal. And that is the light you've been searching for all along. If this video resonated with your own journey, I would love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. You never know who needs to read it. Subscribe for more soul-level reflections, gentle healing, and spiritual truth without the fluff. And above all, be gentle with yourself. You're not lost. You're becoming real. Life didn't magically become easy again. Bills still had to be paid. I still had insecurities. There were still days where I felt fragile, but something had shifted. The difference was I was no longer looking for escape. I was looking for alignment. I stopped asking, when will this be over? And started asking, what is this moment asking from me? And that small change led to everything. Before the dark night, I was always performing. Even my spirituality was a performance. Chasing enlightenment. Trying to be pure, trying to be worthy. Now I just showed up. Messy, honest, quiet. I let my emotions be what they were. I let my heart speak in whispers. I stopped pretending I had answers. And strangely, that's when I began to feel real peace. Not the peace that comes from perfection, but the peace that comes from not needing to be perfect. I began to understand the dark night wasn't something that happened to me. It was something that happened for me. It was life's way of pulling me back from the edge of falsehood. It was my soul saying, we can't keep pretending. We can't keep living like this. And though it was painful, it was also sacred. I wasn't being punished. I was being rewritten. During my slow return, I developed some practices that weren't about escaping the darkness, but walking with it more gracefully. Here's what helped me. Gentle mornings, no phone, just breath and stillness. Free writing, 1 page a day, no editing, just truth. Nature walks, not for steps, but for sensation. Saying I don't know, and meaning it. Creating without purpose. Art, sound, movement. These weren't tasks. They were acts of devotion, not to a God outside me, but to the sacred presence within me. As I came back into the world, my relationships changed. I no longer had the energy for superficiality. I didn't want to be around people who needed me to be okay all the time. I craved depth, realness, space for silence, and slowly, those people began to appear. People who had also been cracked open, who didn't fear my tears, who weren't uncomfortable with not knowing. We spoke the same language, the language of the soul. And in that reflection, I saw myself more clearly. The journey through the dark night doesn't end with a trophy. There's no certificate of awakening, no final destination, but there is movement, there is return, and most importantly, there is remembrance of who you truly are. Beneath the masks, beneath the pain, beneath even the idea of self, you remember, I am not what happened to me. I am not what I lost. I am what remains. When all else is gone, if you're still in the middle of your darkness, don't rush it. There is a sacred intelligence in your unraveling. You are not lost. You are being led. Be curious. Be soft. Be brave enough to feel everything. And know this, you don't have to heal to be worthy. You don't have to be strong to be lovable. You don't have to understand to be on the right path. You're already on it, even now, even here, especially here. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for feeling it all. If this story resonated with something deep inside you, I invite you to share your own, because somewhere out there, someone is in the dark, and your words might be their first candle. Until next time, be gentle, be honest, and never forget, the night may be dark, but your soul is luminous.